This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. An adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as required by law. Certain portions of the meeting may be closed to the public for the purpose of personnel and other matters as outlined in the sunshine. Decisions made or discussed in the closed session will be made known to the public at a later date. All contracts awarded by mayor and council must comply with the affirmative action requirements of NJAC 17:27. Fire exits located in the directions I have indicated. In the event of a fire, please move in a calm, orderly manner to this nearest smoke-free exit. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Yurkova.
Here.
Councilman Wilkinson.
Present.
Councilman Casai.
Here.
Councilwoman Story. Here. Councilman Kelly.
Here.
Councilman Elmaraki.
Here.
And Mayor Carty.
Here.
All members present, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And if I ask everybody to please stand, and Madam Clerk, please lead us in a prayer and a pledge of allegiance.
Eternal God, grant us thy help in all our duties and all our perplexities. We ask for thy guidance. Give us thy protection in all our dangers and all our sorrows. Grant us thy peace. Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. As I mentioned prior to the start of the meeting, there's going to be some changes to the agenda this evening. First of all, we're going to go into closed session after we do our certificates of proclamation. And there's an addition to the certificates that we're going to be giving out this evening. We're going to be honoring Mr. Lyman Thompson, who has made a generous gift to the borough of Roselle Park, which hopefully generations to come will enjoy. And finally, I believe that I'm going to do my report and recommendations of mayor at a later part of the agenda as opposed to upfront. Madam Clerk, do you have any communications this evening?
None, Mayor.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Lyman Thompson to step forward, please. I've known Mr. Thompson since I was a young man in town, and I don't think I've ever heard a bad word said about the man standing next to me. He is dedicated to our community. He's the guy that you'll see riding his bike, stopping, picking up a cigarette butt, putting it in the trash can where it should have been to begin with. He's the guy that you'll see watering plants on Chestnut Street so that way they don't die. He's the guy that you'll see shoveling at a crosswalk, so that way a friend or a neighbor would slip and fall in that crosswalk. Lyman is truly dedicated to our community, and in all of his generosity, he has also seen fit to make a gift to our borough. It will last for generations, we hope. In the back of the council chambers at this point is a canvas of the Doughboy Monument at Veterans Memorial Library. It was generally donated by Mr. Thompson, and we want to thank you for saying. And as a result, I'd like to provide you with a certificate of appreciation. The certificate of appreciation means this is certified that Mr. Lyman Thompson is being recognized for his donation to the borough of Roselle Park of a canvas for the Veterans Memorial Library at Doughboy Monument. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No.
I got it. I'm a little older, but I grew up with Lyman. And I had the privilege of Lyman and I, we walked our class of 69 down the graduation that day. We were the head of the class. So we did a lot. And I had the opportunity to work with Lyman back in the old days when we had the auxiliary police, Lyman was a member of the auxiliary police, and there was times that when we needed him, Lyman was there. The mailman lived up to his motto, because he was out there, rain, snow, sleet, hail, all hours of the day, all hours of the night. Get up, and if he was out there guarding an intersection with a wire down, he'd go to work the next day. So Lyman was there, and the one thing about Lyman, when I used to get called out for crash investigations or if there was something coming down, and I told Lyman, stand there, and I don't want nobody coming down the street. He didn't care who you were, what you were driving, or what. He'd throw his body in front of him because he didn't want anybody coming down. I didn't want anybody coming down that street. And there was many nights that I needed help holding the tape, doing measurements and stuff, and Lyman was there for everything. As the mayor said, he was out there. He's always stopping in at the Sano Center, mopping up the floors. He's down at the Historical Society. He's here. He probably spends more time here now that he's retired than he was working. Not that I'm saying he didn't do a good job. He did a good job. And he used to sit back and say, Councilman, you got to talk to somebody. There's dirt over there. So this is the type of guy that Roselle Park is noted for, a true Parkian. The dedication that he's given, to the future of Roselle Park to look at the Doughboy, which gives us the opportunity to stand here and speak about it. But as we say, right, brother? All right, be the man.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thompson. I'd also like to recognize another special friend that I see in the audience this evening. As a young man in town, that we had several mentors that would grab a group of the youth in the town, take us on trips. They were sponsored by the Church of the Assumption and the CYO. That friend has remained a close confidant and friend over the years. Ms. Kathy Drake had been at my first meeting as a councilman, my first meeting as a mayor, and she wanted to make sure that she was here at my last meeting, last regular scheduled meeting as a mayor. And I thank you very much for all of your friendship, your help, and your assistance over the years. Thank you, Kathy. At this point, I think what I would like to do is go into a short, I hope, closed session to cover all of the closed session items that we need to discuss this evening. I'm not discouraging anybody from staying here. I recommend that you keep nearby because I don't think it'll be a long session. Can I hear from members of council and from our professional staff what the items that we're going to discuss in closed session this evening are?
Mayor, I have 4 from myself. The personnel issue with the court, contract negotiations regarding the revaluation, contract negotiation with the clerical bargaining unit, and then contract negotiations with the Department of Public Works.
Personnel issue with the court, contract negotiations with the reval, contract negotiations with 2 bargaining units, with 2
Clerical and public works.
Any other items for closed session this evening?
There, I just have one possible litigation involving the technical effects matter.
Any other items? Okay, was there the mayor and council of the Borough of Roselle Park wish to discuss matters which are described in the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, Sunshine Law, JSA 10:4-12. Whereas the general nature of the subjects to be discussed in closed session are personnel issue regarding the court, contract negotiations regarding the reevaluation, contract negotiations with the clerical bargaining unit, contract negotiations with the public works bargaining unit, and possible litigation with regard to 10 Colfax Meeting. Whereas the time, when, and the circumstances under which these items discussed in closed session will be disclosed to the public at a future time, now therefore be resolved that the mayor and council of the Borough of Roselle Park adjourn the open portion of the meeting and open a closed portion of the meeting to discuss the above items. Do I hear a motion to go to closed?
Make that motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? We're now in closed session. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we're back in open session and closed session to discuss the following items. Personnel issue regarding court personnel, and that will be subject of resolution 251-14, at which time it should be resolved. Contract negotiations with regard to the evaluation process, and that should be the subject of resolution 259-14. So that should be resolved this evening when we go back, when we do the rest of the agenda. The other items that we discussed were clerical bargaining unit issues and public works department bargaining unit issues, and possible litigation with regard to 10 Colfax Manor, and either none of those issues were resolved this evening. This time, I would like to go around the horn and get the reports of the standing committees and council committees. And I'll begin with our Councilman at Large and Mayor-elect, Councilman Carl Hogan.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to make it short and sweet. We've got some time here. Sorry about missing last week's meeting, the first meeting of the month. My son was getting married, and we had the rehearsal dinner. So congratulations to my son and my new daughter-in-law. Very simple. Karen's not here. I'd like to thank everybody that attended the tree lighting ceremony back on Friday, December the 5th. I'd also like to thank one of our residents at the audience, Sal, for doing the electronic hookup because of the weather that night. Even though the weather was very, very miserable, it was standing room only at the Casano Center. It was absolutely packed. The amount of people, everybody did a great job, between the kids singing, all the merchants that donated the food, the handlers. It was a fantastic job and a way to kick off the Christmas season. And the other night, Tuesday night, I attended the Board of Health meeting to wrap that up at the end of the year. Just to let anybody know, it is flu season. There are 2 more clinics being scheduled on Friday, actually tonight, 2 to 4. And then on Monday, December the 29th at 2 to 4 at the Westfield Borough Hall. If you have insurance, it's covered. If not, it's like a $15 charge. You can get the shots. So with that, I'd also like to mention that congratulations to Megan, the Board of Health lady that's been with us. She gave birth to a baby girl. So congratulations to Megan. And I wish everybody a very healthy and happy Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and that'll be my report. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Sitting to the left of Councilman Hawkins, and your right, is our Councilman-elect for the first ward, Mr. Eugene Yola. Now we'll go on to our first ward council representative, Mr. Andrew Casillas.
Thank you, Mayor. My last report, I'm really going to miss signing those vouchers. I'm going to miss, in all seriousness, working with the Public Safety Committee, Finance Committee, Ken's office, and all that other good stuff. And I'll go into more detail on that at the reorganization meeting in January. A lot of what I would report is subject to approval on tonight's council meeting agenda, which is always a good thing and good thing to go out with. And I just want to thank everyone in TV land for listening over the last 3 years. Thank you for coming or not coming to meetings, depending on who you are. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your service to our community. Next up is our second ward council representative, Councilwoman Charlene Story.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to mention the Historical Society had their anniversary party on Monday, and many of the pizzas were donated by Valentino's, and I think we ought to thank them for that. It was a very well-attended event, and it was the last anniversary event that would the President, Pat Pagnetti, who is turning into a snowbird, and he will be spending a good deal of her time away, so she is going to be staying on the board but stepping down, and I'm hoping that we all will be honoring her when she is back from warmer climes, because she certainly deserves it for many, many years of devoted volunteer service to Roselle Park. I also want to mention the Cassano Center is going to be having Ed Beisel's calligraphy. I saw the exhibit today, and it's really, really beautiful, and I encourage everybody to stop by and take a look. And I think that's about all. Those who celebrate Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah, and probably won't be back here before then. Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much. And now we'll move on to our third ward council representative, Councilman Ryan Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to keep it quick, I just wanted to wish everybody happy and safe holiday season. And I know we'll have plenty of time for farewells at the reorg meeting, but I just wanted to say it's been an honor serving with the President, Mayor, and Council. And I'm confident that those moving on will continue to serve Roselle Park and the integral part of the community. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up is our fourth ward council representative, Mr. Gino Roselle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to start to congratulate Mr. Thompson. Congratulations. I know Mr. Thompson for more than 20 years. Great job. Congratulations for your great job. I'd like to mention also that the Cassano Center need a turkey for the holiday basket, so we need a donation. Folks, you can bring a cash certificate from ShopRite or Chestnut Hill. Please, we need to contact Karen Antais from the Cassano Center, or you can contact Charlene Story or myself for any donation. In my report, I'd like to wish all our residents happy holidays and happy, healthy New Year's. Thank you.
Next is our fifth ward council representative, Councilman Mike Yakimo.
Good evening, everyone. I also want to just echo everybody else's sentiments. Happy holidays. Hope you have a safe and healthy new year, and look forward to seeing everyone next year.
Now we'll go around the horn. We'll go with our chief legal counsel, Mr. Rich Husford.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, not much has transpired on the legal front in the last 2 weeks. There are a few matters out there that we're just waiting for responses from the other side as to possible settlements. We're hoping to get a few done before the end of the year. I'll obviously keep Mayor and Council aware of that situation, but we're kind of on hold waiting for those, the other side to get back to us. But once I find out what's going on, I will make calls this week or next week. I'll advise Mayor and Council accordingly. I do want to take the opportunity to thank Mayor and Council for a good year, and thank each and every one of you whenever I need to talk to you, review anything with any of the Mayor and Council, and our clerk and the Chief Financial Officer. They're always available and made my job a lot easier, and all the staff just for all the hard work this past year. As I said last year, the people on this dais work hard. They love the town. They put the town's interests at heart, and they go above and beyond every year. Each and every one of them. I have to say thank you. As a resident, thank you as a borough attorney for all you do, not only to make my job easier, but also to make the borough run. And also, Merry Christmas, everyone out there, and Mayor Council, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mayor, could I just say, people may not know this, but Mr. Huxford is actually one of my residents, so it was an honor and privilege to serve for you and with you. on this day.
Thank you, sir.
He's actually one of my residents too, so it's been an honor and a privilege as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And now we'll go with our Borough Clerk, Mr. William Kelly.
Yes, Mayor. I'd just like to report that yesterday I attended a meeting with New Jersey Transit, and we interviewed 6 finalists for the renovations to the windscreens at the train station. Very hopeful that one of the candidates, in my opinion, each candidate had to be rated. I did personally give him a perfect score, and hopefully he will be selected. And I think we're not at liberty to discuss the results of the committee or what's in each proposal right now, but it was an outstanding presentation, and I think it would be such a positive renovation to the borough, and I think all of you will be thrilled if this one person is chosen. Although the other artists were all creative in their own right, I just think that this one presentation was absolutely outstanding. I also have a request that I'm going to forward for the Mayor and Council to review. It's a video by private residents, but I just want you to be aware when they were asking to have it put on TV 34, but in your review, if you would please just notice there is some advertising in the video, and I would just maybe make a recommendation that if they can edit it and take out that advertising, if you agree that the concept and that type of video is something you would consider, because we right now have no policy on TV 34 as to what the content can be, and if Mr. Huxford or whoever would like to help me in January, maybe draft a policy, and then by the end of the year meeting, you could advise whether or not you wish it to air, and I will follow the guidance.
I haven't seen the video, but there's a fine line between advertising and information, putting out information. And I haven't seen the video, so I don't know what you're referring to. But I hope that just a mention of a particular business in town or something like that isn't considered advertising.
Well, if there's another, if there is absolutely a particular mention, a shot of a business, and it's not so much a business, and it's not a town business, but a company. I don't want to go into too much detail, but another company would say, well, I want to air mine. So once you open that too, it's not just where you're seeing Costa's Restaurant. That's not what I'm talking about, okay? It's promoting, the video is kind of promoting in it.
Okay.
Advertising.
I just want to point out that for the past 4 years, I've been advocating having informational pieces on businesses in town. And as long as it is an informational piece on business in town, I hope that council is supportive of it. If it's beyond that, then obviously it's an issue. I also want to discuss the New Jersey Transit plans for the train station. Not only are we talking about the artwork that's supposed to be put up as windscreens, but there's also a plan to refurbish the entire upper deck, and potentially, if there's additional funds, to make the train station building look a little bit better, potentially with trusses or some kind of a roof that makes it look more like a traditional building as opposed to the 1960s and 1970s style square brick building that we have right now, cube. So hopefully, new council will work with New Jersey Transit as we have been for the past 3 years or so, to try to improve the quality of our train station, because that really is a focal point for our community, and hopefully that will continue, the progress will continue.
And the project will be completed within 18 months. So you will see the results within the next 18 months.
There's an expensive amount of money that's going into it. I believe the number was $600,000 that we were talking about initially, and there's the potential of additional money going into it. So it's a very expensive project. Also, with regard to New Jersey Transit, I don't know if everybody heard, but the Raritan Valley Line one-seat ride program is going into phase 2, which will include, beginning on January 12th, having nighttime evening service directly into New York from the Raritan Valley Line. The afternoon program, which was the off-peak hours between 8:45 or so in the morning through 4 o'clock in the afternoon has been a great success. And we know that this will be successful because this is the one where the people that go to plays in New York or are working late in New York will be able to take the train right back home. So phase 2 we know will be successful, and then the next step will be phase 3, which has been accelerated now for weekend direct service, and then finally peak hour service is the final goal. And while initially we were looking at 2 years down the road, it's potentially possible to see that by the end of next year, as long as people continue contacting New Jersey Transit. The Raritan Valley Rail Coalition is working hard to make that happen. Please help them make it happen by making phone calls and writing letters.
Cards. Trying to get the cards they gave out at the meeting.
Okay, and now I'd like to go to our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Ken Blunt.
Thank you, Mayor. Just requesting our year-end wrap-up meeting. I was looking for Tuesday, December the 30th at 6 p.m. If everybody can check their calendars and see if that works.
Is anybody opposed to that time?
6 p.m.?
Mm-hmm.
I can make it.
Okay,
Here,
Tuesday,
Okay.
Tuesday, December 30th, 6 p.m. here. Wrap-up meeting. And if there's any additional items that need to be put on the agenda, hopefully you'll take those steps to make sure it's advertised.
And just want to wish everybody happy and healthy holidays. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. As we're getting close to the witching hour for our public comment portion, I'd like to ask if there's a motion to accept the reports of the departments.
Make that motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Reports of the departments are hereby accepted. I hear a motion to go to the public comment portion.
Yes, Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion to open the public portion of this meeting. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Public comment portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak, please step forward, state your name and address, and tell us what's on your mind.
Jacob McGarrett, 612 Sheridan Avenue, Roselle Park. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, viewing audience, members of council, good evening. There are about 8 people in the audience. The closed session was almost 45 minutes. To the chair. Mr. Councilman Halverson.
Councilman Hogan is not the chief.
Lyman Thompson and I turned on the lights on the tree at the gazebo.
I appreciate that, it's a great job, but I only saw that it was done in the TV in the Casano Center.
It was done,
So it was,
one was
it was
done
a joint effort by
inside
the three of us.
because of the inclement weather.
Yes.
And one was done, we braved the weather.
Yes, well, glad you didn't get electrocuted.
We just sit there.
You weren't standing in that puddle I made?
If you folks come next year, changing of the voting places from Aldine Park and Middle School. Aldine will go to the Church of the Assumption, and Middle School will go to the Methodist Church. But you have to work that out, you guys.
I'm not exactly sure what that is.
Aldine goes to where?
To the Church of the Assumption,
Can't happen. What else is your question?
to the Methodist Church.
No, neither one.
Why?
That's up to you.
We don't choose the voting locations.
There's
The
laws
the
regarding.
polling locations are chosen by the board of elections.
Miss-
Well, We don't choose the polling locations. The Board of Elections chooses the polling locations. There's a series of criteria that they use to choose polling locations, including accessibility, including location, including the number of voters that are supposed to go in there, and including the number of employees that are going to be required to man those polling locations. Look, Roselle Park is a small town. If you could use one polling location, it would make it easier and less expensive for everybody. But the reality is that in order to make sure that everybody has the right to vote and they're not disenfranchised, as we had spoken about previously, we have to follow the Board of Election rules, and that's what we do.
Mrs. Caroline, can you look into that?
I've already looked into it, Mr.
Oh.
Mayor, several times.
Okay. Explain Resolution 25214, increase the amount not to exceed $40,000. Resolution 26014, authorizing the emergency repair of 209 and 215 Pershing Avenue sanitary sewer.
I'm sorry, did you say 264-14?
26014.
You said, what was the first one you mentioned?
252-14.
In regards to 25214, Neglia is the licensed remedial engineer to perform site remediation services. The DEP has required additional work to be done at the old police station because it was reported at some time 30, 40 years ago that there were 4 tanks. There's only a record of 2 tanks. So there's a lot of additional requirements from the DEP, that work that has to be done before they'll give us a sign-off for that address. So that's the necessity for us to have someone do all the listed work in the resolution.
260-14.
260-14 is back on Monday, December the 8th. We had a sewer break at 209 to 215 Pershing Avenue. We had to do emergency work. We had sewage, and it was handled by Montana and Neglia Engineering, and this is authorizing that emergency because this is the next available meeting.
A thought, perhaps you folks, this council or the next council, New Jersey American Water has an insurance plan that protects.
Go ahead. I'm finished. I'm just.
Go ahead.
No, finish.
It's a few pennies. Well, not a few pennies. It's about $15 if you have the sewer line, the water line, and they cover X amount of dollars.
First of all, it's something that taxpayers would have to pay out of their pockets.
That is correct.
And the second thing is that it covers from the home to the sidewalk, to the main. And if the sewer line has a problem, it's then the borough that needs to step in. I'm not sure why that would have an impact on this situation.
Where does the borough pay for? From the house to the curb?
No,
Or from the curb?
from the main.
The main.
Yeah, in the middle of the street.
Councilman Hoekstra, you wanted to add to that?
No, as the mayor said, basically it just covers the homeowner for the lateral going to the curb. And after that, it's our responsibility, and this was our responsibility. So the water company couldn't do it. It's our sanitary sewer in the middle of a block, which was...
Well, there were 3 homes on East Grant Avenue that one paid $20,000.
Oh, yes. Yeah, because it was the problem, right? And one of them, 2 of them found out that never mind, it was litigation, but 2 of them settled.
Anyone else wishing to speak, please step forward, state your name and address, and tell us what time you want.
I'd like to wish everyone a happy Hanukkah, a Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad, Naleche Nasciente. Ladies and gentlemen, your audience, viewing audience, members of council, and my friend Clint Eastwood.
Anyone else wishing to speak, please step forward, state your
Good
name
night.
and address, and tell us what time you want. Len Marcheski, 622 Sherman Avenue. How is the mayor and council doing? I wish you the best of holidays and stuff like that for everybody, whatever they celebrate on the TV and the bodegas and everybody else. I'm going to miss Mayor Joe Cardi, and I'm going to miss Andrew Casais. I just find you very interesting. And a lot of, you have a lot of interesting views and a lot of things. But the problem is, like the businesses, for instance, they didn't have, you had this SID for how many years? And why did it fail? Because the schools do a better job in advertising. The borough clerk, the library, and the Casano Center, they do a better job. I says, who was this individual that took this job to do this job for the city and all that stuff for businesses? And why did it fail? Because they couldn't put a book together or something like that to show for helping these businesses. It's a shame. I said they have to go out and put out flyers to do it. That's the only way to do it. Either that or go through the schools. It's unfortunate. What really bothers me the most nowadays is that juveniles are allowed to go out to the streets as long as they want because the curfew's gone. Why did that happen? I mean, I can't understand why. Why would you abolish that? I see my brother was upset about that. He says, nothing good happens after 10 o'clock. And I mean, I walk the streets at night, there's a lot of bad things that happen at night. You wouldn't believe. There's nobody around, to protect the kids if a child abduction would happen. You think the police can handle it? No, they can't, because they're not that many out there. Because at night, there's not that many police officers. At night, there are in the daytime. Daytime is more. And that's the problem. I said, I wish it could be segregated that so many, in the daytime, so much in the afternoon, so much at night. But it isn't that. And I'm afraid that a child abduction could happen because nobody's around to protect you. What do you think of that? I mean, to abolish it is ridiculous. I mean, 1 minute after midnight I think it's enough. I mean, but why did they have the Mr. Policeman have to go around telling them when to go home? I mean, they don't know how to go home on their own. I've had them around people that are out at night, and I used to say to them, it's 11 o'clock, don't you think it's time to go home? I told them 4 or 5 times, I think it's time to go home. Sometimes they'd stay out till like midnight, 1 o'clock. One time it was 2 a.m. And I was there, I saw them. And I just didn't like it because I'm always afraid that something bad can happen. And it can happen anywhere at any time. But it's unfortunate. And I was very upset about this because I don't like the idea of it. And then, you people have children of your own. You think it's right to have them roam around the streets at night? No, you wouldn't allow them. But parents allow it. It's sad. And then when bad things happen, then what? If a child is missing, then what do? They go crazy. Trying to see what could have happened. They have to pray that, nothing happened to that person. And that's the sad part. That's happened one time. The kid went out at 8 o'clock at night. He didn't, they were looking all over for him. And then all these calls come in, and the police have to move around constantly. They have to call the county and they go out there and look for this person while they have to do all these calls that come in. It's a lot of work for police officers. They have details to do too. It isn't like you're just doing nothing. They have a lot of things to do. I said they do a lot of things. Like I was sleeping one night and I couldn't believe it. All of a sudden I hear an alarm go off. I said, what's this? I said, I can't believe it. I've never had this happen in my life at all. It's 2:30 in the morning. I have to call the police. I have to use the non-emergency number because I don't see no smoke. I don't see no fire anywhere. So then the policeman comes, he checks it out, and then the next thing you know, the firemen had to come because there was a carbon monoxide tank. But it was just dust in it, they told me. Because they said there's no indication of carbon monoxide.
But I'll tell you, the dispatcher was a great person. He did a good job. And the police officer was very helpful. And even the fire chief now, Mr. Fire Chief Toby, he's very good too. And I wish, I feel bad because, it's 2:30 in the morning. I don't like to do it, but I had no choice. Because it's under a need to have to basis. And I look at this borough clerk, she does a great job. I don't know how she does it. I don't know what you're going to do someday when she retires. We're really going to be up the creek because she really works hard. She does a lot of great things. And I know miss Andrew a lot because, Andrew is going to have a nice job now. I'm glad you got, I'm happy for you that you're set with a new job for the rest of your life now.
About 4 years. Once I voted out in 4 years, I'm not going to have a job.
I didn't know. I just, I thought it was all set.
Thank you.
That is a tough job.
2016.
I wish you the best though with that job.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna miss the mayor too. He did a good job. That Sandy thing was crazy. He did the best you could do. You never think that this could happen. With all these trees coming down like dominoes, but the problem is they're not trimmed right, this and that. They're not done the way they're supposed to be. They should be kept. Otherwise, they come down on your house. Forget it. A lot of people had to leave their houses and stuff. And you get scared, thinking that, what could happen then? People could break into these homes and stuff. There's a lot of crazy things happen. Other towns from not too far from here, they were stealing copper, and people don't believe it's going to happen. It can happen anywhere. And I tell you, copper at one time was at $1 a pound, and it went all the way to $4 a pound. Now it's dropping, thank God. It's dropping down to a low level, so they won't steal it anymore. Because now it's about $2 a pound now. It's like it was at $3 at one time. But I will wish you all the best of luck and everything, and your new adventures. I wish you the best as being a lawyer. I tell you, that's a tough job too. Doing the courts and stuff and all that reading you do. That must be a lot of work. And I wish you the best, and you have a good evening and take care. Thank you very much.
Mayor, could I just make a note for the viewing public's perspective, enlightenment on the curfew issue? I've said it about 5 times at this point. The issue was discussed at a public meeting. There were some objections raised to the ordinance because we were looking to amend it and clean it up a little bit. There were some constitutional considerations and legal considerations with it. The Public Safety Committee brought it back, and I brought it back to Chief Morrison, our police chief. He said that the curfew ordinance hasn't been enforced in several years. And that is due in large part to the fact that the police department can enforce and does enforce loitering ordinances, public destruction of public and private property ordinances, and that's how we combat issues of people roaming around after dark and some of the issues that we run into with that. So he was confident that we could get rid of that ordinance and not see a detrimental effect to the quality of life of the residents of the borough. And I think that's what the council saw through when we abolished the ordinance. So the residents should see no negative quality of life impacts to the abolishment of that ordinance. And I'm sure that with the new council and the new administration, they'd be happy to address those issues in the event they do arise. And again, we're confident they won't. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak, please step forward, state your name and address. Tell us what's on your mind.
Sorry. Saul Kearson, 150 Berlin Street. Just for clarification, resolutions 248 and 249, canceling of those balances. Just a brief explanation as to what that means. Where does that fund go? Were those funds not able to be used?
Yes, those grant periods are now over, and those funds were not used, and it's canceling the receivable and an offsetting reserve, which was the spending part that wasn't spent.
So does that go back to general fund? Does that go
No,
back to the
it's
fund?
just to wash against each other. Doesn't go to.
Where does the money go?
that wasn't used?
It wasn't used, so.
Oh, so it just goes back?
So it goes back to the grant people.
That's what I meant. It goes, okay. So it's returned to them?
Yes.
Okay.
The other question, I'm sorry, you had, I think you said.
I think it's the same
249 is an old outstanding check.
For 11.
Year old, so.
that someone didn't
Right.
cash. I do want to ask about 250, but the main one I do want to ask, which I hopefully will be discussed in more detail, is the revaluation. And that is number 259, correct? A Realty Appraisal Company?
That's right.
I hope it will be discussed, but I'm asking just in case it isn't. I know that the CF
I'll be pulling off.
discussing about the 3-year appeal component that we discussed?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I guess 250. I'm just reading the resolution title. Declaring intent to fully comply with current and future Mount Laurel obligations and to serve as the quote-unquote catalyst for change to render any Mount Laurel lawsuits as unnecessary litigation. Can someone just explain the purpose of that resolution?
Yep.
And its intent, I guess.
By doing this resolution, we're being proactive because there was a case last week where the court granted a motion which could expose municipalities to builder remedy lawsuits. And the decision could also result in trial judges deciding the standards which municipalities have to comply with code. This might, and it's not a guarantee, but by doing this, the other municipality, the municipality in this case, fortunately, a trial judge in Monmouth County issued a ruling that would attempt to be used to the borough's advantage, and it placed a great amount of weight on the fact that Ocean Township adopted this resolution. And where there are attorneys feeling about if we do the same thing, it's just a method so that should something happen, we have this on record. That we have nothing to lose and maybe a lot to gain by adopting a similar resolution prior to an oral argument which is going to take place January 6th. That's the reason that they're recommending we do this immediately, just to put it on the record. And if the judge decides in the favor of Ocean Township, then this would be a good thing to have on our record to protect us. If you would like the whole correspondence, I'd be happy to explain it at a future date.
I'll just overturn, I guess, right?
Okay.
But I guess I have a couple of questions. If it was in Ocean County,
Ocean Township,
which is in what county?
Monmouth County.
Monmouth County. Did this go to the appeal? I mean, if it was just a county court, or is the township or is the municipality doing this as a proactive measure in case it spreads?
Exactly.
Although,
No
you know,
guarantee.
right, because it could say, well, that's Monmouth County, that's not Union County,
No guarantee.
but it's a proactive measure nonetheless.
But also any county court that rules it's a state decision. It doesn't matter that it's in Monmouth County.
Really?
Any court decision applies to all state courts.
Oh, because I was told that wasn't the case when I had an Oprah case brought against. I'll just follow it again. Thank you. And I guess my other question is, this does not impact our current status. This impacts any potential future incident unforeseen that may occur. Okay. And then just my last point is, I was actually at the joint meeting of Essex and Union County meeting today. And just coincidentally enough, they voted themselves 2% raises. And I guess I was just always wondering, and I know we've discussed this before, why does that appointment always go to council members? When in the bylaws, and when speaking with Mr. Green, It's just, the bylaws actually read it has to be a resident of a certain municipality. So I'm wondering two things. Why is, from what I can gather, the highest paying position on a board or a committee for $6,500 a year always given to members of council and not members of the public?
I think it'll be up to the future mayor to decide how he wants to handle that.
Because I'm just basing as a reference the Roselle Valley Sewage Authority, which is also gets paid. They only get paid $600 a year. And that is a resident, not an official.
Yeah, I believe that it was sent, this question came up about a year or so ago, and in the joint meeting, they have that it's a member of the governing body. They go in,
To be continued. Thank you.
sorry.
Anyone else wishing to speak, please step forward, state your name and address, and tell us what's on your mind.
Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion at this time to close the public portion of this meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Public comment portion is now closed. I will accept a motion in a second on the minutes.
Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion that the minutes be approved pending any corrections.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are approved. I'll entertain a motion in a second on bills and payrolls.
Mayor, members of council, this time I'd like to make a motion that the bills and payrolls be not read and passed for payment.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Yakubo?
Yes.
Councilman Hopkinson?
Yes.
Councilman Sines?
Yes.
Councilman Story?
Yes.
Councilman Kelly?
Yes.
And Councilman El Morazi.
Yes.
Motion
Thank you,
affirmative.
Madam Clerk. Bills and payrolls are hereby accepted. We are now going to do our second reading on two ordinances that are on the agenda for this evening. The first one is ordinance 2428. Madam Clerk, I'd ask you to read ordinance 2428 by title only.
2428 is an ordinance amending Chapter 40, Section 40-601 and 40-3002 of the Code of the Borough of Roselle Park entitled Terms, Defined, and Signs. This relates only to amending the section regarding political signs.
Mayor, members of council, I would like to make a motion that the public hearing on ordinance number 2428 be open. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Public hearing on ordinance 2428 is now open. Anyone wishing to speak on ordinance 2428 and ordinance 2428 only, please step forward, state your name and address, and tell us what's on your mind.
Jacob McGarris, 612 Sheridan Avenue, Roselle Park. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, viewers, ordinance, members of council, good evening. Would you, for the residents who are watching on TV, explain ordinance number 2428? What are the signs? What can be done and cannot be done?
Very brief, because it's a long-standing ordinance.
Mr. McGarrett, what this ordinance would do is separate out political signs, meaning signs that would advocate for a candidate, a political party, or a public question in for or in opposition to. Separated that type of sign out as its own category pursuant to our ordinances, but that sign would comply with the same community standards that all other signs would have to comply with. There would be no time frame that these signs could be put up, taken down. That's it.
No time frame for political signs?
Correct.
You keep it up here all year?
Good.
Wow. That's great.
No permits would be required. That was a question that's come up in the back burner of this ordinance, but for viewing public,
That comes under.
that's already exempted from our permitting process.
That comes under the First Amendment, freedom of speech.
Correct.
Oh, great. Thank you. Good night.
Anyone else wishing to speak on ordinance 2428, ordinance 2428 only, please step forward, state your name and address, and testify in the matter.
Saul Kiersman, 150 Berlin Street. I was at the Monday night's land use board meeting where there was a lot of discussion, and I think there was confusion because I think these were the terms defined, is this correct?
Correct.
The section that's being, and I think they were kind of mixing that up with the other terms. And I'm sure the clerk will review their questions or concerns. And unfortunately, I guess they talked after the public portion, so I couldn't bring that up. But I just wanted to confirm that that's what they were doing, that because they were reading the wording of the 45 days and they went to something about the 30 days. But these are just the terms that are defined. This is nothing with the carrying out of the different sections of the code, correct?
No. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's all this is.
But the crux of the issue is that a political sign, as we would all normally consider them, are temporary signs.
Correct.
However, our ordinance has temporary signs, which means other things to businesses, to, businesses is the best example. So the definition of political signs was included in the definition of temporary signs, which then put a time frame on it, and a lot of other things that actually would comply with what the ordinance is going to say, other than the time frame.
Right. And that's all it did. It just pulled it.
And it also expanded it further down, so you have section 601, and then section 3002, where political campaign sign is defined again under the signs, and it expands. It only said, it was originally a sign advertising a candidate for election, a political party, or a political party, including a political party. Now it's expanded it in favor of or in opposition to political party, candidate, or public question, since there's been a few public questions previously.
So could I, again, I guess doing my first draw, council members have any question, I guess, regarding what the land use board sent? Because I'm sure the clerk,
We're going to be discussing.
Clarified the confusion. And I don't know if they were given the entire, because it looks like they read the entire code, and I think that's where a lot of the issues came up, but I want to thank you so much for, I myself, although have one out of protest, I do want to thank the governing body for addressing this, because I think it's a pretty serious issue. And First Amendment rights are, however they're expressed, are important. And I want to thank everyone for taking this seriously and taking the time to refine it and work it so that it never has to be addressed again, hopefully. Thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to speak on ordinance 2428 and ordinance 2428 only, please step forward, state your name and address, and tell us your time.
Okay, Mayor, members of council, I would like to make a motion to close the public hearing on ordinance number 2428, 2428. Then, Mayor and council, I would like to make a motion that the ordinance... I'm sorry, one at a time.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Public hearing on ordinance 2428 is now closed. Council President?
Okay, Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion that ordinance number 2428 be adopted on a second reading and advertised as prescribed by the law.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Well, I think it's a good idea to address the sign issue as part of an ordinance. I've already made it clear that I am hopeful, that particularly given the events of the last election, some other prior elections, that the political parties sit down and talk about the future use of signs in our borough. I think it's important that they do that now and not wait until election season, because at least now you can address the issues with some degree of objectivity, as opposed to once election season starts when everybody is trying to outdo each other. So hopefully, in addition to the ordinance, there'll be some discussions to take place among the political parties to make sure that we don't have any problem in the future as we've had in the past. Any other questions or comments? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Yacobo?
Yes.
Councilman Hopenson?
Yes.
Councilman Casais?
Yes.
Councilwoman Story?
Yes.
Councilman Kelly?
Yes.
And Councilman Almarazzi?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance 2428 is hereby approved. Madam Clerk, please read ordinance 2430 by title.
Ordinance 2430 is an ordinance fixing the salaries of certain officials and employees of the Borough of Roselle Park in the County of Union, State of New Jersey for the years 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion that the public hearing on ordinance number 2430, 2430 be open. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Public hearing for ordinance 2430 is now open. Anyone wish to speak on ordinance 2430 and ordinance 2430 only, please step forward, state your name and address, and tell us what's on your mind.
Jacob McGarrett, 612 Sheridan Avenue, Roselle Park. Would somebody please explain why there is such differences? Deputy Borough Clerk, 31,000 to 60,000. Borough Clerk, 50,000 to 100,000. $50,000 difference. 30,000 on another one. And then there's one at the very end that's 25,000 up to 130,000. That's a $105,000 difference. Can somebody again explain to the viewing public that they have all this information in front of them, which we do?
What you're talking about is salary ranges, a minimum and a maximum salary range. That's something that exists in the private sector, that's something that exists in the public sector. Whenever somebody is looking for a job, if they're looking for a salary range, you know that you're going to get paid at the lower level if your qualifications don't add up to a superstar, or at the higher level if you are in that position for a long time or have some prior experience that would qualify you for that higher range. It's necessary to have ranges, so that way you have a variety of applicants for any position, a variety of employees in that position based on their years of experience, the amount of time they've been with the borough, the salary guide that they're in at that point. The biggest expense that you're talking about is the Chief Administrative Officer position, which is a new position that's been added on this year that I'll address later. It's $25,000 to $130,000, and that is a range of what potentially a Chief Administrative Officer would be paid if they were to work here. If it's somebody that's come in just to do the Chief Administrative job, that's coming from a different position where they have a multitude of experience, they might expect to get $130,000. If it's somebody that gets a part-time position to do the work or has another assignment within the borough, it might be $25,000. And anywhere in between, that's where the salary range is.
That's it?
That's absolutely it.
Can you folks find some time or some money to buy another one of these? This one does not work. Period. It's no good.
Mr. McGarrett,
Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, viewing audience, members of council, good night.
with regard to the item that Mr. McGarrett was holding up, it's not part of this ordinance, but I will address it. There is a hearing device that's provided for Mr. McGarrett or any person that requests it when they come to the meeting, as long as we have them available. And we've had technical people look at it, they all say that it's operating properly. So it's very difficult to understand why our technical people say that it operates properly, and why this item that's being provided at taxpayer expense that is monitored by somebody who is hired at taxpayer expense with batteries that are purchased at taxpayer expense, which we're being told operates properly. Mr. McGarrett says doesn't operate properly. I'm not casting aspersions or anything, but we've had people actually look at this device and we're told that it operates properly. And I've just been advised that it's tested before every meeting as well. Anyone else wishing to speak with regard to ordinance 2430 and ordinance 2430 only, please step forward, state your name and address, and tell us what's on your mind.
Glenn Marchesi, 622 Sherman Avenue, and how is everybody doing? The question I have is this: for those salaries, gotta be for certain reasons. You have to have certain degrees or something like that.
I'm sorry, certain
degrees.
It's not degrees, it's salary range. In other words, it's based on a person's experience, their salary requirements, experience with the borough, and any job that you go to will tell you what the salary range is. If I were to go to apply for a position at a gas station, I might be expected to make between $10 and $15 an hour. And then I have to negotiate within that $10 and $15 an hour. That's what it is, a salary range.
Well, what I meant by it is, like, for instance, Ken Blum, for instance. He had to have a certain something to be what he is. Right?
But I'm not allowed to speak about an individual.
Well, I'm sorry to put it that way, but I'm saying, like, salary-wise, you have to have some kind of
You mean an education
Every position has also position
just
requirements.
like for instance, like the borough clerk, she has to have certain qualifications.
It's not just qualifications. There are certain jobs that require certifications and some specific training for that position. And that is certainly taken into account when a salary guide is developed.
Well, I always figure you had to have the educational background for that too. I think there was that be some kind of certificate for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's like you can't just say, okay, I'm with so-and-so, I want $1 million or something like that. Let's say it goes up to $1 million. You can't get $1 million if you're not qualified, but you have to have certifications and all different kinds of papers, but require educational purposes. So that means you have to have a college degree or something.
I certainly hope that everybody sitting up on the dais is cognizant of the fact that when they're hiring somebody, they're looking at their qualifications in order to make sure that they are properly qualified for any position they hold within the borough.
Well, I'm just saying, there's certain things, that's why the salaries are based on that.
Absolutely.
But you have to have a lawyer to do the legal background stuff, so he has to be qualified as a lawyer. He has to have those papers. So you have to go to college and stuff like that, pass the bar to get it.
You have to go to law school.
Well, that's what I mean, law school, yes. You see what I'm talking about? You still got to go to school for that. Isn't just say, okay, here, I'm a lawyer. I can do what I want to do. How do you be a lawyer if you're not qualified? You have to have that degree. You have to pass the bar to get it.
There are actually some...
It's like a police chief. He has to be qualified too, some way down the line. They have to go for some kind of education.
That's right. Every position has certain qualifications. There's no question about that.
Yeah, but that's college degrees, is it not?
It depends on the position. It really depends on the position.
I believe it is because, you see all these different things,
It's not actually. There's certain certifications that are uncommon.
I always thought they were, I'm sorry. I always thought there had to be some kind of qualifications, college.
Learn something new every day.
Like being an accountant. You'd be an accountant, it's the same thing. If it's, something like that. Well, thank you very much, Howard.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone who wants to speak on ordinance 2430 and ordinance 2430 only, please step forward, state your name and address, and tell us what's on your mind.
Okay, Mayor, members of council. Wait, hold on, I got that mic close back on here.
Close the public portion.
Yeah, close.
I will entertain a motion
I don't know
to
if I
close
have to
the public
agree with
hearing on ordinance 2430.
Second.
Is that a motion?
Yes, yes, Mayor,
Second,
thank you.
closing the public hearing for ordinance 2430. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Public hearing is not closed for ordinance 2430. Do I hear a motion on
I
ordinance
got it.
2430?
I'm back on track now. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, and members of council, I'd like to make a motion that ordinance number 2430, 2430 be adopted on a second reading and advertised as prescribed by law. Second.
Any questions or comments? As we described before, there are certainly salary ranges, and that's not out of the ordinary. It's something that's done every year, so I'm not sure why it's an issue this year. The one addition is the Chief Administrative Officer position, which has a salary range of $25,000 to $130,000. I think that the Chief Administrative Officer has been and continues to be a very important position for this borough. The reason why is because members of council have rules and regulations, laws that they're supposed to abide by when they're determining what they're doing for the municipality. At the very least, the mayor is, contrary to what a resident has said in past meetings, a part-time position. Regardless of what that individual said, the mayor can't be in town 24/7 under any circumstances. And the reason why it's a part-time position is because that's what our charter states that it is. If the voters decided to pay a mayor a salary that was comparable to the position, comparable to the education level, comparable to the responsibilities, they would probably be paying a lot more money than they pay now. I believe council members' salaries have held steady and actually had a decrease for the past 4 years of around $8,000. And the mayor's salary has held steady and actually had an even greater decrease in the past 4 or 5 years at around $10,000. Don't quote me on it, it's in here somewhere. I don't know what the exact numbers are. While Councilman Hokinson, who's the mayor-elect, didn't say so last time, it is a part-time position. I think he'll agree that as much time as you put into it, and you generally do put in a substantial amount of time, it will remain a part-time position under any circumstances. And in order to run the borough efficiently and effectively on day-to-day, there is really a need to have a chief administrative officer. So I fully support the addition, finally, after 4 years, of that position on this list. And I say that knowing that people that are sitting up here now that would be voting on this are the same people that hypocritically voted no to that previously. And hopefully they're doing it for the right reasons, not for the partisan or odious reasons that I think that it was done for previously. It's for the good of the town that we need a chief administrative officer. I've said that all along, and hopefully at some point in the near future that will happen. All the other positions are pretty standard positions that have been there all along. I fully support the way that this ordinance is written right now, which includes finally, after 4 years, the position of chief administrative officer. Any other questions or comments? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Yakovo?
Yes.
Councilman Hoganson?
Yes.
Councilman Casais?
Yes.
Councilwoman Story?
Yes.
Councilman Kelly?
Yes.
And Councilman El Marasi.
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance 2430 is hereby approved. We will now move on to, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Mr. Attorney, you're going to have to, 2430, I have to abstain. I'm sorry.
Okay, please note that on 2430, there's an abstention from...
I'm sorry, I apologize to the people, I apologize to my council members. I right, Mr. Attorney? I'm sorry, I did it the whole time because of the fact, PDA contract. Right?
Okay, we're going to have to do a different motion on that. If the person moving is not authorized to vote on it, we would have to, well, actually, there's no PBA position there.
And also I have a court administrator, court personnel.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to need to get a new motion as made previously, same wording as previous. Do I hear a motion on 2430?
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Yakubo?
Yes.
Councilman Hoganson?
I have to abstain.
Councilman Casais?
Yes.
Councilwoman Story?
Yes.
Councilman Kelly?
Yes.
And Councilman El Marasi.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance 2430 is hereby approved. This time we'll go into, there are no new ordinance for introduction this evening, is that correct?
No, yes, sir.
Okay, moving on, we'll go into our consent agenda. These items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the governing body so requests, in which case the matter will be removed from the consent agenda and it will be considered in the normal sequence of events on the agenda. Madam Clerk, please read resolutions 243-14 through 250-14, 252-14 through 260-14. Please read resolutions 243-14 through 250-14 and 252-14 through 260-14.
Everything on
Okay. 24314, authorizing the holdover of appointed positions until Organizational Day 2015. 24414, authorizing the purchase of rock salt pursuant to Union County Cooperative Purchasing Agreement. 24514, accepting the retirement of Carol Orozco from the position of full-time school crossing guard. 24614, appointing Nancy DePalma to the position of full-time school crossing guard. 24714, amending Resolution 5411, contract between the Borough of Roselle Park and Gold Type Business Machines, 351 Patterson Avenue, East Rutherford, New Jersey, under state contract number 69834. 24814, canceling grant balances. 24914, canceling old outstanding checks. 25014, declaring intent to fully comply with current and future mountain law obligations and to serve as the catalyst for change to render any mountain law lawsuits as unnecessary litigation. 25214, amending Resolution 9214, increasing the amount not to exceed $40,000. 25314, authorizing the Treasurer to issue a check in the amount of $2,807.52 for an overpayment of sewer utility charges for the year 2014. 25414, authorizing the Treasurer to issue a check in the amount of $1,907.28 for overpayment of fourth quarter taxes on Block 207, Lot 30. 25514, authorizing the treasurer to issue checks totaling $4,777.56 payable to multiple lien holders for redemption of 3 tax sale certificates and checks totaling $2,600 from the tax collector's premium account. 25614 is a transfer resolution. 25714 is awarding a contract to Premier Security, Mattawa, New Jersey, in the amount of $36,920 for Borough Hall Police Building Firearm System. 25814, authorizing change order number 1 for the Roselle Park Home Improvement Program, case RP09C, in the amount of $750. 25914, authorizing agreement with Realty Appraisal Company in the amount not to exceed $234,000. $239,000 to provide reevaluation services in accordance with the specifications. 26014, authorizing the emergency repair of 209-215 Pershing Avenue sanitary sewer.
Okay, I'm going to ask for 259-14 to be removed, and we'll do that along with 251-14 in the regular course of events on the agenda. Any other items to be removed?
I'd just like to make a comment. On number 2. I'd like to make just a comment on 245-14. Just a comment. I just want to make a comment. I'm voting on yes, but...
Why don't you make a comment now?
Okay. 245-14 is accepting retirement of Kyle Morosco in the position of full-time crossing guard. I had the great honor of working with Carol as a crossing guard when I was on the PD. I was in charge of traffic safety, and I was in charge of the school guards. She was dedicated, as all our crossing guards are. She was dedicated. She came down with some illnesses. She did everything she could to get well, to get back, on that corner. She loved her kids. She loved her job. And she's going to be missed from me. And so, Carol, congratulations. Thank you for your dedicated service to the Borough, Roselle Park, and to the kids. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I will entertain a motion on 243-14 through 250-14, 252-14, through 258-14 and 260-14.
Mayor, I'd like to make that motion as you just described. Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Yurko.
Yes.
Councilman Hokinson.
Yes.
Councilman Casais.
Yes.
Councilwoman Story. Yes. Councilman Kelly.
Yes.
Councilman Omarasi.
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Resolution 243, 244, 245, 246, 247, 248, 249, 250, 252, 253, 254, 255, 256, 257, 258, and 260-14 are hereby approved. I will entertain a motion on 251-14, setting salaries and wages for certain officials for 2015 to 2019.
I'll make the motion.
Are there any questions or comments on 251-14, setting salaries and wages for certain officials for 2015 to 2019? Again, the reason why this was not part of the regular consent agenda was because there was some discussion in closed session with regard to 2 of the salaries, which had been agreed to be listed as on the resolution, and therefore there's nothing further to discuss about the closed session agenda. It's been resolved with the vote on this issue. Any other comments? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Yurko.
Yes.
Councilman Hokinson.
Yes.
Councilman Casais.
Yes.
Councilwoman Story.
Yes.
Councilman Kelly.
Yes.
And Councilman Omarasi.
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. 251-14 is hereby approved. And the final resolution this evening is 259-14, authorizing agreement with Realty Appraisal Company in the amount not to exceed $239,000 to provide reevaluation services in accordance with specifications. Do I hear a motion?
Oh, hey, I'm sorry. I make the motion. Just move the resolution. I'm
It's
sorry.
moved by Councilman Hokinson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Councilman Casais, did you want to address it?
I will address it. I guess I'll try to address the entire thing, although please, other members of the council, after I'm finished, don't stop. This has been a long process with the revaluation. So we're finally here, last meeting of the year, or last regular meeting of the year, and we have the proposals where we can work the revaluation. This is a conversation that started pretty much in January between Ken and myself, and then went to the finance committee, went to the full council during the budget meetings, then went to the full council during regular meetings. So it's been a long process. We had a lot of discussion and a lot of debate in and outside of Borough Hall, and I'm happy that we've come to this point. We did receive two proposals as part of the RFP process. They were significantly lower than what we budgeted for. We budgeted for a maximum amount of $500,000, which is $500,000. The higher bid actually came in, or both bids came in less than $250,000. To preempt the question about quote-unquote fluffing the numbers, we actually sought question with the state before we set the amount at $500,000 was the maximum, and they quoted prices that they would think would be probably less than $500,000, but not to the extent that we witnessed here with the proposals. That is a great thing for the borough as a whole, and as a financial unit, as a financially functioning unit. The monies that we used were not raised in taxation this year. They are surplus monies that the borough had from multiple different areas, the breakdown of which escapes me offhand. But any of the prior documentation and discussions on council, it is documented explicitly in minutes and in records that we have at Borough Hall. But it was at no added cost to the taxpayers. Now it'll be even less of a burden for the taxpayer because those surplus monies can go back into the accounts that they were drawn from, and we will be that much, the borough will be that much further ahead of the game. Over the last few weeks, there's been discussions amongst the couple of communications amongst the finance committee between myself and the mayor, myself, members of the finance office, especially our chief financial officer, Mr. Blum, and everyone's also been speaking with our assessor, who is our tax assessor, who is at the epicenter of this issue, and will take up a lot of her time and a lot of her effort. And it's a real testament to her supporting the governing body through this whole process, because not only will it make her job easier, but she recognizes that it will be a financial help to the municipality to have this done. It's not the easy decision, wasn't the easy decision, probably will never be the easiest decision that this council or any council will have to make, but it's one that we made, and I'm very proud that we made it. Getting down to the decision that we have to make tonight, we have the choice between two very good companies, and both submitted very competitive pricing. What I want to fully disclose to the public is that we have on the table tonight a proposal that is not the lowest proposal that was submitted. However, it's roughly $18,000 more than the lowest proposal's base proposal. However, there are other considerations that our legal team has reviewed, and our assessor has reviewed, the finance office has reviewed. We've come up with, I should say the assessor came up with what she thinks are the best, some of the reasons that she feels we need to, or we should go with the company on the agenda, Realty Appraisal. One of which is that many of the principals of the companies reside in Union County. I'm not going to go into every single issue on here for the benefit of the council and the public, but principals live in Union County. They have a unique understanding of the county and the surrounding area, which could significantly help in this process, as it's a new process for Roselle Park and most of the municipalities, and what will inevitably be a new process for most of the municipalities in Union County, because revaluation will need to be done in all of the municipalities, whether they like it or not. But this, I think, puts Roselle Park a little bit further ahead of the game, having the heads of this company residing in Union County and knowing the area. They offer a fully bilingual staff. There's 4 persons on their administrative staff that are 100% bilingual. In comparison, the other company claims to have less than that. That helps with our growing change in demographic. Our Hispanic community is growing in Roselle Park, and that's something that we are looking to face head on and make sure that everybody, and when we say everybody, we mean everybody, is aware of what's going on and exactly what's happening in this process, because again, it is a new process for everybody. The other benefit the company claims is they try to stay in northern and central New Jersey. Again, that adds to, similar to the situation of the principals being from Union County. They know the area well. They know what works, what hasn't worked, what the area is like, what the variables are when you go into any geographic area. So I think that is really a huge bonus to have somebody who kind of knows the home turf doing this kind of process. So again, although they weren't the lowest, actually I have one other thing that I think is probably one of the most important, and is that the base proposal was for the revaluation specifications that were put out as the RFP solicitation. There's another component, which would be the state tax appeals. Those would be done at an hourly rate. The rate that this company is proposing is $35 less than what their competitor submitted, which I think, and as we talked about earlier, that $35 could add up very quickly, especially with the volume of, I forget the number that are pending right now. We have 20 pending? So we have 20 pending, it wouldn't count any other property that's assessed at over $1 million. They would immediately go to state tax court. So this company would have to defend those in state tax court, and their hourly rate is $35 less. And that $35, though it doesn't seem like a whole lot, could add up very quickly depending on the volume and the extent that these these properties that are assessed at larger amounts, larger meaning over $1 million, could fight, and the duration of that fight, quote unquote. So I would like to recommend, as the finance chairman, I recommend that this resolution be approved, that we move forward with this process, and that we bring this portion of it to a conclusion. It'll be the onus of the next council, and I have full confidence they will do this, because we said it since day one. Have public information sessions with the governing body, with the public. Have multiple information sessions with the public to make sure that everyone, and again, everyone knows what's happening here. Because, as I've said through this whole thing, it's a new process. We don't want anyone left in the dark. And we want everyone to realize that this is for the benefit of the borough as an entity and the taxpayers as the lifeblood of the borough entity. So that will conclude my comments.
Thank you. Please. Please.
You heard it all. It's a long process. It's still going to take some time. It's not going to be done overnight. And again, I personally want to thank Joe Cardi. He brought this up 4 years ago. A lot of discussion. It goes to show he has the interest of this town in his heart, because as we said, we had to stop the bleeding. $670,000 in tax appeals. And I'm, as incoming with this council, I personally thank you.
I obviously thank members of council for considering this evening. Thank Councilman Gonzalez for spearheading it and making it a possibility. I thank the Borough Clerk and the Chief Financial Officer making it happen. I think it's an important move for our town. It's important to note that there have been some flyers distributed that contain absolute mistruths about what a reval is and what it's supposed to do. And I can assure you that if I didn't think it was in the best interest of the borough and the residents of the borough and the taxpayers of the borough, I wouldn't have pushed for it so greatly. Sometimes it's you have to think about doing the harder right rather than the easier wrong. And that's what I'm hoping council will do this evening. It's not a politically popular decision, something I've always said, but it is the right decision for the town to stop the bleeding. I'm going to make some further comments after we do this vote, but I just feel some sense of relief that the final 3 votes that we did this evening are for 3 things that I've asked for the past 4 years, all of which finally, at the last meeting, at the last votes, have been approved by a unanimous council, I hope by a unanimous council. But I thank you all for making this possible.
Mayor, I just want to add it, because I didn't say it. I do want to thank you, because this is something you talked about when you were on council 5 years ago. And you talked about it first year as mayor and then my first year on council. And it's something that unfortunately, and I know we talked about this, but it takes the will of the people in the political wheel to make something this big happen. So we've seen it with the CAO position, we've seen it with the East Crane Avenue project, we've seen it with a whole variety of things, but it takes the right time to make that happen, and this year was that year. And I'm happy because council, for the most part, came together and agreed that we have to stop the bleeding. I mean, that's the best. I know Councilman Hokinson said that from the beginning, we have to stop the bleeding. So I'm confident and that will happen, and I thank you for pushing this from the start.
Thank you. Any other comments? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Yakubov?
Yes.
Councilman Hokinson?
Yes.
Councilman Casais?
Yes.
Councilwoman Story?
Yes.
Councilman Kelly?
Yes.
Councilman El Morossi?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Resolution 259-14 is hereby approved. Are there any matters for referral to committee or council?
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention something in my report earlier. I received a phone call last night from the library director. They had a library board meeting. Apparently they're having problems with their computers. And she requested that the mayor and council consider they need $8,000 for new computers. Apparently 2 of them are bad out of 12. They did request this money for capital purposes coming up that we will be discussing for 2015. She said if we have any money available, would we be able to set something up? I just want to make you aware that they currently have $1,410.41 in an old capital ordinance that can be used for computer purchases. And I also want to remind you that they have their own surplus that had almost $130,000 in at the end of 2013. I don't know their current situation, but I can't see that being washed away. So I'm looking for guidance from you if you want at the year-end wrap-up to try and find a way to make it happen, or tell them to wait for capital. They can get 2 probably with $1,400, or just tell them to have their board approve in their January meeting the surplus towards their budget, and they can get it done. Because I believe last night was their last meeting of the year. So I'm looking for your guidance.
Surplus.
Who's surplus? Library surplus?
That's what it's there for.
I mean, if they got 100 X amount, $8 grand, you drop the bucket.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Surplus. Anybody else have any comments about it?
I agree.
Okay, I think you have your guidance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, my final report and recommendations as mayor. It's been 5 years on the dais, 4 years as mayor. It's been an absolute honor and a privilege to sit up here working for every resident of Roselle Park. When I first took on this job, a former mayor mentioned to me to look around me, because of the people that are your friends now, the only person that you'll remain friendly with at the end of this, perhaps if you're lucky, is your wife. I've been fortunate that my wife has stood by my side. I've been fortunate to have friends like Andrew Casais and friends out of the community. I mentioned before, Kathy Drake. I've been fortunate to ride the storms literally in this town over the past 4 years. I said earlier that sometimes it's better to stick to the harder right rather than the easier wrong. And no matter what anybody ever says, what I've told my children, to do the best that you can do at anything that you do is what I've done since I've been mayor. There have been moments of disgust with some of the comments. There have been moments of despair over some of the actions. But at the end of the day, every hour, every minute, every second in the past 4 years has been memorable and a privilege. And I thank everybody out there for allowing me that privilege for the past 4 years. Thank you all. Are there any other items for discussion this evening? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion, we adjourn, sir.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting is hereby adjourned.